What was our first
1.2.
summer? What was the highest bill? Was like 800. I think we all fell off our chairs.
Yeah, it was like seven, $800, which is typical for Hawaii, but
Hello, I've got my amazing business partner, Jason Sampson, on with me today. Hello, Jason.
hi Tracy, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Today, we're going to do something a little different. I know a lot of you follow me for my Keeping 100 podcast, where we talk about motivation and inspiration. And we're going to come back and do that together at one point. But today, we wanted to share with people a pretty amazing project that we have together and just how we walked through it and the whole process of it. I'll give a quick overview and then we'll kind of dive in. So
Let's
we
do it.
have, yeah, let's go, right? We own, Jason and I, with two other partners, own a multifamily property in Hawaii on the island of Oahu, on the west side of Oahu. It's a three-bedroom, one bath upstairs and a two-bedroom, one bath downstairs. And we bought this seller finance. It is also right across the street from the beach. So there's that too.
Right on the water. Yeah, waterfront property. Can't go
That's
wrong
right.
with that.
You cannot go wrong. So we wanted to share that because a lot of people, I hear from people a lot that, oh, sub two and seller finance are just, junk and they're in bad neighborhoods and all those things. And then of course you're from Hawaii and I've spent a lot of my life there. People always tell us you can't invest in Hawaii. Like that's ridiculous. But we disagree 100%. And so this project for us, I mean, this is definitely a beautiful cash flowing, wonderful asset that we have. Do you want to share with people how do we find this? How,
Yeah, I mean, first I just want to touch on investing in Hawaii, right? I think
please, yeah, do that.
yeah. So I grew up in California, moved here in Hawaii a few years ago. You've spent a much more time, here living and I think if anyone is approaching Hawaii, just to have the right intentions, I think that's always important. I think that's one of the first things you and I just
Yeah.
right off the bat we aligned on, right? Was our values and
Yes.
what our intentions were with purchasing and owning, property here was to um, give back and reciprocate as much as we are, benefiting from, from the land and from properties, and
Yeah.
also making sure that we are providing something that is of value. And for this project, it ended up being something that we ended up housing, and providing a home for a multi-generational family, which was great.
That. I'm glad you said that. I should have started with that because that is so true. We met because the wholesaler, we had both been talking separately to the wholesaler. We bought this through a wholesaler. And I think at one point he almost like threw his hands up, like, can I just introduce you two? Because you guys are so irritating. You just want to do like the right thing. And we love him. Hey, not this is not in a bad way, right? He's
Yeah.
funny. And so it's so true for us. The thing that's so important is just honoring and respecting that um, these islands and the land is very sacred and very special. And the history in the islands is deep rooted in beauty and trauma altogether. And I think for me, what I've found the way that I've just had success living in Hawaii and built really strong relationships is being very respectful and really understanding the history of what has happened and what is happening. And housing is a tremendous, tremendous problem in Hawaii. It is beyond what anybody is experiencing in any other parts of the world or the country, pardon me. And I have a little studio apartment and I have a family of two teachers and their little girl in there. And they were going to be homeless. They're two teachers. And they're just so grateful to live in a studio apartment because it's better than their car. And that's the reality of what's going on there.
Yeah, it is. It is the reality of certain areas, and so I think that's what attracted us to this opportunity. We both have worked with this wholesaler and have had history with this wholesaler. I've done a few deals, so there was trust built in. And
Yep.
as we talked about, this was a unique, I think, property where there are multiple units. It's right across from the water. as an investor, your mind can go into a lot of different directions with what you can do with that. And
Your
so
B and
you
B, right?
big land, big lot, all of that stuff. And I think you and I, talking separately to the wholesaler, had some of the same ideas in mind, which was let's do what we can to price this the right way, to have it for a local family. And
Right.
with that end goal in mind, I think we backed up into what are the right numbers for the deal and how do we go about the rehab and everything. And like you said, the wholesaler who's part of our community just said, "You guys need to meet." And I think our
Correct.
first conversation, you and I just hit it off. We talked for like an hour.
Yeah, yeah,
We
yeah.
did.
Yeah, and it's so the community piece is huge, and if you're watching this and you're in sub two, you know that. And if you're in real estate and you're not part of sub two, I don't know what you're doing, but I hope you have community and partners because we wouldn't be here without that. We had a community member that we knew, we trusted, we'd worked with before. He knew us both well enough to say, I got to put you guys together, right? Because
Yeah,
we've got
yeah,
the same path. And it's very cool. I think community is a huge part of that. That's how we also found our other partners, right?
absolutely. Yeah, we needed to raise some money for this deal and bring in some private money partners and get everybody in on the deal together, on what was some fair equity. And yeah, we found those other people through the community, and it helped that we had the built-in trust of the community. You and I had known of each other, but never actually directly met or directly interacted until we looked at this deal.
Yeah, that's true. And that was really fun to go through. So let's talk about the deal because
Yeah,
it's a cool deal. And yeah, so I'll
I
just go
think
yeah, no go. Yeah.
I think the first part when the wholesaler brought this to us, there was a pain point with that we wanted the problem to solve, right? And so um, there was a person living there. She had been living there for quite some time, and she was getting a little bit older, and her son owned the trust, and she was ready to have him take over. And he wanted to move her to the mainland, move her closer to him, and he was just ready to, to figure out what to do with the property. I think they listed it for a while, and a really high price point, and it just didn't, sell.
Market.
And yeah, I think it was on the market for 3 to 5 months.
Yeah,
Eh.
definitely. Yeah.
And then that's when the wholesaler brought the deal to us and said, "Hey, they're open to seller financing because they did own it outright, which is always a really cool way to start a conversation because there's so many different ways you can slice it."
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we worked through, I will say that, boy, our wholesaler, and we'll definitely be tagging him in here so he can get some kudos. Grant did some good work. He really earned his assignment fee because we did go back and forth for maybe a month. Do you feel like? And even towards
Yeah.
the end, before we closed, we had some, I forget what those negotiations were at the end. What
Yeah,
was
so I think initially, the seller just wanted, 10% down, right? And I think that was pretty solid.
Yeah,
But one of the things that the seller really wanted to ensure was that, we wanted to make sure that we were taking care of the property and we're making upgrades to
yeah,
it.
that's it. Yes.
And they were just saying, this is a neighborhood that is starting to, get developed and people are starting to rehab houses one by one. It's going to be, 5 to 10 years between this entire place is rehabbed, but I don't want this to be a house that just rots over the next 10
Right.
years. And so we said, okay, let's do a 10% down. Let's do an interest only seller finance deal. And that was really, what brought us into it because at interest only, that's how we can cash flow while
Right.
pricing it really well for a local family.
That's right.
But the stipulations that he had was, I'd like you to do at least $80,000 worth of renovations.
Right.
And I think when we were going back in negotiations, we said, okay, how about we do it in two phases? We'll do
That's right.
40,000 the first year. We'll do the other 40,000 by year two. And so
Mhm.
that just gave us, enough renovations, without too high of a budget to do
Right.
what we need to do to get it rented. And then we can figure out the second phase, which you and I have figured out since then.
And that's a great point to bring up because I know people will come to me often and ask me to look at the structure of a seller finance with them. And that forced equity, I think, is a really good sort of like little bonus to the seller, to assure them that we are going to take care of your property, so much so that we're willing to commit to a number, right, and a time period. But we had to walk through, it had to be realistic because had we said 100,000, it didn't need 100,000 of work. So we
Correct.
budgeted, I want to say 40, 50,000. Construction ended up being 50,000, but we budgeted around 40 to 50. So we felt confident we could at least cover the first year. We knew that the roof needed to get replaced. That was going to have to happen down the road. And then there are some improvements we could make to the land, and the outside could get painted. But really, beyond that, there would be not, what could you do, right? So we kind of had to have those conversations back and forth with him. And
Yeah.
they were open. I think all of the negotiations went really smooth. Again, I think that goes back to relationship. The wholesaler had taken his time getting to know the seller. You knew the realtor, you had a relationship with the realtor,
Yeah.
super helpful. So the negotiations, I feel like, went pretty smooth.
Yeah, then I mean, it took a little time to go through it. I think one of the greatest pieces that we walked away with too was that the seller said no payments for the first 3 months. So we
That's
said, hey,
right.
we're gonna probably take need about 3 months to do these improvements. You know, if we don't have to pay, a mortgage payment and have some holding costs while we're doing it, that'd be great. And they were okay with deferring payments for the first 3 months. So we said, let's get this rehab done in 3 months and get it
Oh,
rented.
yep.
And that ended up being really, really great terms for both sides.
Yeah, it did. And
Yeah.
then the rehab, again, that goes to relationships. I know I keep saying that, but I really love to drive home when people are watching, especially if they're just getting involved. People tend to be afraid of partnerships, right? But
Yeah.
just finding people that bring all the skills and the different pieces, because you can't do it all yourself, right? And so
Yeah.
you brought so many great relationships, and so you knew the contractor, and that
And
was,
I met the contractor at a local meetup, right? And so going to meetups, you never really know who you're gonna work with. I met this contractor. It was actually a flip that they were just doing. And I had a couple small projects. And the first thing that I knew when I met a contractor, Justin, I just said, "Hey, I've got a really small, like, I just got to put up a wall in this garage in my rental." And he was like, "Hey, listen, no project's too small. Let's just, we can knock something out in a few days." And right then and there, I knew it'd be a really good relationship. And so after that, we started doing a couple more projects together. They started to get bigger and bigger. And then when this came up, it was just a no-brainer. I wanted to continue to work with him, and of course, he ended up being available, which is always important.
yes,
And so yeah, we went into this project. We trusted their bid and
yep,
everything that their estimates, and we got the ball rolling. And the cool thing was that we had 3 months to do the rehab, and they finished in about 6 to 8 weeks.
yeah,
So that was amazing because that gave us an entire month to get it listed
yep,
and get it rented.
yeah. And you did a great job of, you got it listed before I think we were fully finished, just in anticipation of it. And within, it was rented, right? I mean, what
Within a week.
I say? And so we had our first month of rental income we kept in our pocket because we still didn't have a payment due.
It was gravy. Yeah, and I think it was awesome because we rented it. We priced it the right way. I think that was important. We
Yeah,
knew where we were going to price it. We knew
yep,
the market. We knew exactly
yep,
who we were targeting. So when we got
yeah.
rental applications within a few days, we knew exactly who we wanted to rent it to. We did, make some exceptions for this family, right? When we
Good
rented it.
point. Yeah, we should talk about that because
Sure, sure.
that's important for people to just, I don't know, just think about that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for this particular property, we knew we wanted to rent to a local family, and we had a family who was in a tough situation, and they were actually selling their home, and they needed to get into a new home while they were reestablishing their credit and fixing some of their financial situation. They needed a place for, 3 to 5 years, hopefully, and I knew that there was some financial history there that we had to take a closer look at, but met them in person, the feeling was right, our gut was right. Um, we had some conversations, a few as partners, to
Yeah.
go through it. and
Yeah,
each one of us played a different role of as
that's
far
right.
as like here's a conservative view, here's the worst case view.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, I think there was some trust built in as partners, and that trust that we felt, meeting them in person, and ended up being a really, really great tenant. And they ended up, renting out both units, right? So they have the upstairs for their primary family, and then his sister and her family's downstairs. And the cool thing is that, he was telling us it's like a dream come true for him. He was like, my dream was to, have my sister live close to me and that for us to live in the same place. And
Mhm.
so they've taken care of our property so well over the past year. It's been
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, we've had it a year. I think that's so important. You mentioned that, and I think multi-generational living is very popular in Hawaii, as it is with most cultures from around the world. Here in America, we tend to shy away from wanting to live with our parents or our sisters or aunts or whatever. But we were very intentional when we remodeled it. There was an interior staircase, right? And we could have chose to close it off or take it away, but we were really mindful of the fact that that could really offer a benefit to a larger extended family at some point. And we really wanted to be able to not just offer this to a local family, but to also maybe offer the opportunity. And so when they came around, I mean, it just was pretty amazing how what a great fit. Did if I remember correctly, we were introduced to them by a wholesaler who had met them as they were looking to sell their home. Am I right?
Yeah, no, it was a local investor who, Jeremy, who was
Oh,
working with them to do a creative deal on their home as well, right? I think they were going to do it like a novation type of deal, and
right.
so he was like, "Hey, they close on I think it was May 25th or so. They're going to need a place by June 1st. This might be a really great family." And so that was also some built-in trust there. Was
Right.
on paper, they maybe
It
have
didn't
been
look
some,
great.
yeah, wasn't great. It was good. It
It wasn't
wasn't great. And
terrible.
then, but that built-in trust that, they came from a certain situation and they worked with other people, that really helped as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, just right back to the community, Jeremy knew that we were looking at this property and you guys knew each other, and um it's pretty awesome how things can just fall into place. I
Yeah,
love.
for sure.
Okay, so we covered we're going to show some photos here in a minute and we can break
Okay.
down the numbers. The numbers are so good that it's like I want to save it for the end because it's so what are some other things? So we have a 10-year balloon on this, which is really, really nice because Um, often you see 3 or 5 or 7, and I would never go for 3, of course, and 5, boy, it's got to have some really good built-in equity already.
Yeah,
7 is, I feel comfortable, but 10 is like, oh, baby, let's go.
absolutely. I mean, if we think about the 764 purchase price,
Mhm.
we put in about 50 rehab. So we're like, okay, ARV, if we were to sell this, is probably like 850 after putting in that much if we really wanted to sell it.
Yeah,
But if we go really conservative on a 3 or 4% appreciation over 10 years, and that's conservative for Hawaii, that's
conservative
extremely
for Hawaii.
conservative.
Yeah, yeah,
You're
yeah,
looking at like, 1.2,
yeah,
right? And that's very conservative. And so that doesn't take into account inflation or anything else. And so, yeah, 1.2 from a 764 purchase price after
right.
10 years, pretty
Yeah,
easy. And it's got a lot of things going for it again. Some of the external factors, the that neighborhood is slowly getting, rehabbed
yeah,
one property at a time. Being across from the ocean is not ever going to change. And so it's got a lot of great things going for it that we think can really boost that value to
yeah.
much higher than 1.2 after 10 years.
Yeah, I think one of the things I think that we appreciate about each other is we do tend to be a little conservative, and I like that. I've worked with other people and they're just pushing it all the time, and I don't love that. I would obviously 3-5% is very conservative for Hawaii. You and I both love Lake Tahoe. I look at properties there all the time. I think the average is like 12%, which I
Yeah.
would never in my wildest dreams run numbers at 12. I'll run it at 5, maybe it's six, but that still feels like a push to me.
Sure.
Then it's just icing on the cake. If it does turn out
Exactly.
8% or 10%, amazing. But
And
uh,
that's a good approach overall, right? We said, hey, this will probably take 3 months to rehab. We knew it was a 4 to 6 week job, and it, ended up taking about six.
mm,
So we got, 1 month of just gravy, right? And so, same thing with expectations on growth. You never know what's going to happen in the market, but Hawaii appreciation has always worked out well. And I think the other cool thing about that is that as the just talking about like multiple exit strategies and everything, right? As the neighborhood starts to improve, there's always that opportunity for us to say, hey, why don't we, you know, finish up a flip on this thing and we can actually flip and sell it, right?
that's
So
right.
there's always different exits that can happen over the
Yeah,
next
and
five or
that's
ten
the
years.
other part, right? That's so important. We were just looking at a property and evaluating it last week, and having the multiple exit strategies to me is really important. I don't ever want to just be stuck with one exit strategy. But
Yeah.
again, so I always recommend that. All right, let's look at, I'm going to walk over the numbers one more time and then I'd love to share some photos because it came out really nice. So 764 was our purchase price. We put 77,000 down. So we had four partners. We had 11,000 roughly in closing costs and about 20 in assignment fee. So all in between the four investors was 155,000. And so that covered, all of our entry fee costs and our rehab. And it left
And the
us with,
50,000 of rehab. Yeah.
yeah, oh yeah, thank you. A rehab was 50,000. And that came in really pretty much on point. I think there was one little thing that, was maybe unexpected, but again, we made sure that we had a buffer for, for rehab. And we also had some holding cost money put aside. What?
I remember the unexpected thing, and that
Oh yeah,
was
what was that?
it was on me, right? You remember? So
Oh,
we
I
were
know. See,
we
look at you.
were
Here you're
this was
spilling the
this
bacon.
is the Jason learning section of this conversation. So we had the downstairs kitchen area cabinets. Remember, we had two different
Oh,
designs,
yes, yes.
and we were moving really fast on things,
Sure.
right? And so I was talking with the contractor, and he gave two different options. One was more expensive by like 3,000,
Yeah.
and I just glazed over it. And we all went around, and everybody voted and said, "Let's go with this better version." And I was like, "Cool." And then he comes back and he's like, "All right, we're installing." And I got the bill, and I was like, "Wait, this is 3,000 more." And
It's
he's like,
like,
"Yes, we discussed this." And that was all on me. And so I think I went back to the partners and I was like, hey guys, I'm taking this one on the chin. I'm not going to ask for any more capital from you guys. I'm going to cover this extra 3,000 costs because that was on me. And it was all good. It was all good from there. But
you're pretty amazing that you did that. Yeah, I forgot. I wouldn't have brought it up had I remembered.
$3,000 lesson for sure.
That's, you know what? And that's the other thing. It's like you have to take all of this with a grain of salt. And you have to learn from it because it happens. We make mistakes, especially we're looking at numbers all day long. We're looking at different properties. There's times in the day where I just have to stop and go, okay, what are we doing? Hold on.
Yeah, moving
Let's
fast.
just let's pause on, let's really get focused. We're not talking about that property anymore because it's so easy also to get you're thinking about this one and then I just had a call with somebody and I was like, "Well, doesn't this one have the three baths?" And he's looking at me like I'm crazy and he's no. And I, give me a sec, right? And I pulled it up and I'm like, "Okay, I'm on track now." So,
Yeah.
it
Happens all the time. You're either analyzing tons of deals, you're raising money for tons of deals, or
yep,
you're managing a current, project. And so
that's
it's a
right.
lot to manage. You got to compartmentalize
Compartmentalize.
and know
Yeah,
what you're focusing on.
true. All right, so we were 155,000 cash, and that got us in the door. We had plenty of time to get it rented, covered. I'm going to show pictures. The reno came out great. And we had, so we covered right off the bat close to 50,000 of that 80 equity that we had to put in, which is amazing within the first couple months. We talked about that we had the 10-year balloon. And then we also agreed that at the balloon, if it didn't appraise, am I right in remembering this, or is this a different deal? It had to appraise what at 80%, was it 70, 80 of
Um,
LTV so that we could refi?
yes,
What it
yeah,
was?
we just said at any point if we're going to refi that it's going to have to be at least at 70%, right? 70, 80% for sure.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I like that too because
Yeah.
people can get into a tricky spot with that, right? You can think, oh
Yeah.
yeah, this is great, no problem, everything should be fine. I always recommend building that in. If you're doing any kind of seller finance where you
Yeah.
have the opportunity to build that in, that just gives you that's it's like a safety net to me. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So am I missing anything else? I made some notes. I wanted to make sure. No, I
Um, I mean,
think
we
we
could talk about the second phase of rehab that we
yeah.
figured
Oh
out.
yeah, talk about that, please. I'm
So
gonna
we're
find
still on the hook for the second phase of rehab, which would be the remainder of 80,000. So that would be like 30K more of rehab we have to do for, within another calendar year. And we always had in the back of our head that we would find something creative to do so that we don't have to put in more capital. And we
right.
knew that it needed a new roof, so we decided to put solar panels in. And part of solar panels that you can put in, is that obviously we'd have to potentially replace the roof. I'm sorry, we knew we had to replace the roof in order to put solar panels in. And so, talking to the solar company, if you are going to replace a roof and put
Yep.
panels, that is all um, eligible to be financed and eligible for a tax write off.
Yeah.
And so, we're going to finance, the entire roof and the
Yep.
panels.
Yep.
Um, because we have our rent, affordable, we're going to include those costs in our rent as well and still be super affordable, and reduce a lot of the, utility costs and everything that our tenants have to pay. And
Yep.
so, yeah, our tenants are going to pay that through their rent. They're going to take care of our roof, and we don't have to come out of pocket for anything. So,
Amazing. Amazing. So
yeah,
we wrapped up within the first year and a half, essentially, we will have covered all the forced equity we agreed upon. We've got a brand new roof, beautifully remodeled upstairs and downstairs. And like you said, I think it's great for the tenants as well because utilities are really expensive. What was our first summer? What was the highest bill? It was like 800. I think we all fell off our chairs.
yeah, it was like $700, $800, which is typical for Hawaii. But
It is, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so it was crazy. But after we talking to the tenants, they were a little more mindful and everything. And I think once we get the solar in there, it's going to be really solid.
Yeah. Well, and we made the choice to put air. A lot of rentals do not have air. And there's no way. I think that that's just, why would you do that to somebody? It
Yeah,
is
yeah.
hot and humid in the summertime. And so, yeah, I'm glad that we made that choice because it didn't have air. So we put mini splits in. Am I right? Mini splits?
Wall units,
Oh,
yeah.
wall units.
Pretty
Okay.
much, yeah,
Yeah.
same.
I'm going to show some before photos. First of all, I'll show, so we can't see the house in this one. Let me go to this guy right here. Let's see. I think whoops, we've got one that's really fun. And you can see my photos on the screen.
There it is. Yep.
Yeah. So there we are. I want to point out because you need to point it out. If you look straight to the ocean and to the right, you see a homeless camp. You look to the ocean and to the left, you see a couple tents. This is what's happening in Hawaii, and we have one of the largest homeless encampments in the country, in on this side of the island. And this is literally what the family that's in my other apartment was going to be living. They were going to be living in a car, probably at a small little pull-off like this, every night. And the fact that we could buy this home as close as it is to the beach, you could get double for an
Yeah.
Airbnb.
Yeah.
And we made a conscious decision that we were not going to do that. And I'm really proud of us. I think that that's again one of the things that we really do well is have that. Yeah, we've got
Yeah,
that.
there's, anytime you see waterfront properties, in Waianae, Nanakuli, or, the Waianae area, those are things to understand. Who is going to actually rent? What's going to be the best use of that land and that property? And, furnishing it and renting it out, it's probably not going to be the best fit. And so understanding what your end game is as far as a long-term rental for a local family,
Yeah.
um, it'll be good for the community and good for your property. But this is
I want
amazing.
to live on
This
this.
deck is, I
Yeah.
know, this
Yeah.
deck is everything.
The deck is everything. Yeah. You can
Yeah.
see it needs a new roof. You can see that old
Yes.
house behind it. We're going to own that before long.
This
Uh,
was the when we were redoing this part, this was or we just did a little light rehab to it, but this was the big deck energy.
oh yeah, that was the big deck energy, right? Yes, I
That was
love
a running joke.
that was it is the running joke. That's right. But and again you can see just beautiful views. The views from the deck are stunning.
Even say this, if you see all the vegetation there,
Oh yeah, talk about that, right?
yeah, I mean, we were going to clear it out. When we were finishing rehab, we still hadn't done all of the vegetation clear out. And this is how we knew we'd have good renters and tenants. They were like, hey, if you select us, we'll clear all of this out on our own for free. Like that'll just be part of us moving in. It
Yeah.
happened to be that, their family member was, worked in landscaping. And so they cleared it up for us. And every time we drive by, it's in pristine shape. So
Yeah.
the views are even
Because
better for
this is a
them. And
lot.
there's more parking, all that stuff for them too.
Well, and especially in tropical environments, you've got to be mindful of the landscaping because rodents love to just hang out and live in there, and it really can become an issue. So,
Absolutely.
they did such a great job with that. So let's see. I'm having a hard time scrolling through. That's funny. Let me go the backwards way. It's letting me go backwards. All right. We just love to show off the ocean view. So the downstairs this is the downstairs unit. It's a two bedroom, but they had opened it up and had all these bookcases.
Yeah, the person who lived there for quite some time was a librarian, and so it looks like a little library back there. And you see this little opening here.
Yeah,
She had this as just one big room, and she probably just had tons of books.
I can only imagine.
So you'll see in the rehab later, we converted it back to two bedrooms that are
Yeah.
still very spacious.
So this is the downstairs, a little kitchen.
Hmm. And you
And so
can see that
here, yeah, to the right of the fridge, you can see where that staircase is that goes to the upstairs.
exactly.
Okay, let's see. Yep. Okay, so
There's the
here's that there.
staircase
Yeah.
and the upstairs here, which is um, three bedrooms. The living area is a little bit smaller, but I think it's because you've got that amazing deck right in front of you.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. That deck. And especially in Hawaii, we live outside. So we did we opened things up a bit with the kitchen, which
Yeah.
we'll get to see.
We decided to keep that wall in place. We were thinking
Oh,
about
that's
opening up
right.
the
We
wall.
did. Yeah.
But we kept it in place, but it still feels a lot more open based on how we configured everything. And good sized rooms.
Yeah. Yeah. There's the deck again because you can't go wrong with the deck. So there's some before. Now we'll go ahead and get to, oops, I'm gonna start. Yeah, I'm not, it's very bizarre. It's really
It's okay.
not
They want to
letting
get to the
me,
end and
well,
then
it's
go.
not letting me go the one way. So I'm just having to go back. Anyway, I love the bathrooms came out great. Just
Yeah.
really nice. I love the hardware. I love how the showers, they're upgraded a little bit.
Yeah, that bathroom actually, we didn't have to. It was in pretty decent shape, so we kept the shower in place and just reglazed it.
Yeah,
Um, and then yeah, new floors, repainted,
great. Yeah,
couple new doors, the light fixtures, fans were just replaced before we bought it, so we didn't have to put new fans upstairs, just downstairs. We
sounds,
added some new fixtures. And I mean, just with the new upgraded kitchen,
yeah.
and it just looks amazing.
It does. And paint does so much for things. It just brightens it up. It was really dark before.
Yeah, and just new appliances. Um,
Kitchen looks fantastic.
yeah. There was something funky with this one. Inside the pantry originally was where the breaker box was,
Oh, that's right. That's right.
which was really weird. So we had our electrician move it outside, on the other side of that
The
wall
other
to
side of
put
that
it where
wall.
the
Yes.
inside is. But just
I mean,
makes
look
it
at
look so
that.
much bigger.
Yeah.
like I
I
want
know.
to move
I
in.
can't wait for them to move out so I can move in. I don't want them to
Exactly.
move out. I love
No,
them.
they could stay forever.
They could stay forever.
Yeah.
And what I think is so cool about it being an extended family is I imagine they all use that deck a lot. I bet they spend a lot
Oh,
up there.
yeah. I have passed by a couple times, and that's their gathering place. They've got, they got kids run around up there, and so
Yep.
it's a cool place for them to be.
Yeah. Yeah. So all in all, it's a amazing property and we filled a need, a real important need in the area. We provided housing, not just to one family, to two families. We helped make, this family, this dad's dream come true of living, having his sister there. And the icing on the cake is we cash flow really nice.
Yeah, we do. We do. Because of that interest only payment, our interest only payment's just under 3,000 a month,
Right.
right? And affordably, we're still renting it, upstairs at 2,800, downstairs at 22.
Yeah.
So we're pulling in about 5,000. And
Yeah.
so after, costs and, CapEx and reserves and maintenance, we're cash flowing about 1,500 to 2,000 a month.
Yeah.
What I really like about our partnership that we put into our JV agreement was that we wanted to hit about 10,000 in reserves before we
Yeah.
start to distribute.
Yeah.
So we had some cool partnership stuff in place where we'll distribute quarterly.
Yep.
I think quarterly is always important to distribute cash flow because if you take it monthly, it's kind of like a roller coaster. But we had to replace a water heater one time, right? Stuff like that. So quarterly is a good way to expect cash flow distributions, and we have waited for us to build up that 10K in reserve, so we always have that before we start cashing out for ourselves.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that was part of the partnership that was really important. And that is so important when people are partnering, talk through all those things beforehand. Have those conversations. I really think it's so important to talk through what your operating agreement would look like before you get involved so that you're all on the same page. The other thing I think is important is I'm really a big fan of having nice set of reserves put aside. I do not want to freak out. I'd rather go a whole year with no distributions and just know that I can sleep at night. Like I don't have to worry. I'm not going to get a phone call that's like, "Hey, I need you to put 5 grand in because the roof caved in," or, some knock on wood. Why would I say that?
It won't. We're gonna have a brand new roof pretty soon.
Well, right.
Yeah.
And
But we had a little, a little leak downstairs, right, that we had to deal with and
that
little
was pretty
plumbing
early on
issues. So, yeah,
about that cash.
anytime there's a water leak, it's always, freaks you out, but we took care of it really quick and everything's good. We
Yeah,
had those reserves.
I know. That's so exciting. There was something else I was going to touch on, but it went in and out of my brain, so I don't remember. Let's see. Because I thought I was thinking it was an important piece. We were talking about reserves, but before that, it'll come to me. Gosh, it was a good one.
Oh gosh, we got to get to it.
But
But the numbers, yeah, the numbers worked out well. So 764 purchase price. We put in, 50,000 in rehab up front. We were 155 all in, 10-year balloon interest only payments of about 3,000. We're getting about 5,000 in rents, so we're cash flowing 15 to 2,000.
oh,
And
that's what it was. The interest only payments. I was just looking over a deal with another partner earlier today, and it is a similar scenario where it's interest only. And I say this because I know, again, when I talk to newer investors and they want me to walk through something, it's easy to forget. It's easy to think right off the bat the numbers are amazing, and they are, and it's great. You have to be really mindful. What does it look like at the end of the day? And are you going to be able to refinance and actually pay back all of the principal because you're taking all of that. Now, alternatively, you could also run the numbers to see, well, what if I wanted to put aside part of the cash flow toward, principal? What would that look like? I wouldn't personally do a deal where I felt like I had to do that because I was worried. I would just prefer to, no, I don't want to it's not worth my time. But it's
Yeah.
a really important thing because I have seen people get into trouble, especially if they have a 3 or 5 year balloon and they just didn't equate for the appreciation properly. Maybe they weren't conservative enough or what have you, and they really get into trouble. So I wanted to just mention that. Just make sure you walk through all those scenarios and, really feel confident. Yeah.
Yeah, I think walking through it, I think also independently underwriting and analyzing yourself and then coming together with a partner to say, hey, how did you see it? This is how I see it. And then you do it together. I think you and I have said no to more deals than we've done together because we've
Yeah,
looked
yeah.
at them and as excited as we were about, like, I can think of two or three deals on top of our heads. We're like, this one's too tight. Let's just not do this one. Let's not stretch ourselves. There's going to be a better deal.
Yeah.
So we had a good balance of taking action, but also knowing where the right fit is for our buy box and as partners for us to move forward with the deal.
That's such a great point. Uh, having taking action, and yet at the same time it's okay to say no. I think a lot of people they might be doing taking the action, and then there's a lot of no's because it happens, right? I mean, you can look at 100 deals and maybe just one of them pans out for you. And I think people can get discouraged. It's, oh, I just, I don't, I thought I was going to get in this game and I was going to have like 10 properties, and in my first year and I have two and I'm so disappointed. But if you're taking action, if you're doing the work, if you're, um, just evaluating the properties and they don't work for what you need, that's okay because you're doing the thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I agree. I do that. My other partner, Dustin, and Kaipo, that's what I love to do is we find the property and we go off on our own and we evaluate it. And we come back and it's super cool to see just, oh, wow, I didn't think of that. Or, oh, yeah, what a cool perspective, whatever the case may be. So, um, I tell people all the time, if you're new and you're uncertain about underwriting, because that's a big thing, people don't feel comfortable.
Sure.
Pull any property. Just pull any property you see. Find a partner. Pull properties every day at a bare minimum. You have to look at one property. I mean, you should be doing like 10 a
Absolutely.
day, but look at one. Go off, underwrite it separately, come back, talk about it, then take it on a Zoom. Take it on a Zoom. Have
Yeah.
one of the bazillion underwriting Zooms we have. Take it to Bo.
Sure.
One of his Zooms.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
see how somebody else underwrites it too. You'll learn, how they look at it. And then, you'll find what your buy box is. You'll get really good at analyzing deals. And then, you can analyze a deal in like 30 seconds. Like, first draft after you get good at it, you're like, I know exactly how this is going to play out. And then
exactly.
later you get to the spreadsheets and you start to do it and you fine tune it. But once you get those reps in, it gets really fast and you'll identify deals really quickly.
Really quickly. Yeah. Well, I think I don't have anything else to share about this particular deal. Do you? I think we
No, I think it's been a great partnership. It's been a great deal. It's been a great value to our tenants and to the community. So I think this one has been a home run.
This has definitely been a home run. Yeah, that's why we wanted
Yeah.
to share it. So, speaking of deals, let's tell people what we're looking for and what we can support them with. And so, together, we're always looking for opportunities in Hawaii, on Oahu. Do you look at other parts of the islands?
Mostly I'm focused here in Oahu. I do like to look in the Vegas area too, and always looking in the Northern California area where I grew up in Tahoe. So
Yeah.
those are kind of like the markets that I pay attention to.
Yep.
And yeah, I think we're just always looking for good deals. If anybody has any off-market deals that they are, creative deals that they need some help with, we're in the market for those, and always
Right.
looking for partners too. We have a good, view of how to find great partners, but we're always open to trying out new partnerships.
Yeah. Agreed. I love that. Yep. Yep. So I'm the same. Love me some Lake Tahoe. Always looking for Lake Tahoe, Hawaii. I'm strictly on Oahu. And then I'm also love co-living. I'm very much involved in co-living properties and the co-living model. I just love how we can just support so many people that need affordable housing. And I'm personally right at the moment, we're mostly in Arizona and Florida for co-living. We definitely have to start. I think Jason and I are going to be the co-living Hawaii trendsetters. I think that is we're going to set that in motion and put it
Let's
out there.
do it. Let's do
So,
it.
where can people find you on social media, or how would you like them to reach out to you?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram, J Sampson Solutions, and you can follow my other property management company, Collective Stays. That's a whole different conversation. Follow those two, and you can get in touch with me pretty easily.
Love that. We'll do a Zoom on collective stays one day.
Sure.
And you guys all know me. I'm Tracy Koa, and I'm at Tracy Koa on all of my social media platforms. You could check out my LinkedIn, where I love to provide more information and knowledge and motivational stories and co-living and you name it. It's all on there on LinkedIn. And of course, hit subscribe, follow me, and next time you're gonna have Jason on, and we're gonna talk story about some, I don't know, we're gonna get deep.
Let's go. Let's do it.